Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for the resub. Crystal Palace. There you go. I noticed. Gopher, you have shown your desktop on some of the Vortex guides. What program is providing the customizable shortcut bar at the top of the screen? It would be Fences. I've been using that for years now. Fences. There may be better options out there. But I couldn't tell you for sure. Basically, oh, we lost the overlay. Sorry about that. That was somebody else. That was Lafdell. Thank you for the resub. I interrupted that because I don't have an overlay on this. This is just purely. Oh yeah, I do. I've got one. I've got an overlay. There you go. Have an overlay. Yeah, basically it's just gives you sort of like drop down scrollable things. It's totally controllable. You can hide things. You can, have it so that only a few things appear. It makes it a little easier to deal with, especially during the old tutorials, to keep everything very plain. Thank you, Perno Benedetto. So yeah, and you can adjust it and make it bigger and larger, and there are all sorts of settings on it, and you can set certain things to hide always, and certain things like you can. What colour it is, what the style is, how transparent it is. I try to keep mine as minimalistic as possible to reduce the distractions on screen when I'm doing things for people. When I'm showing you things, I'm trying to keep it as plain as possible so that people aren't like, totally wondering what I'm pointing at. For example, when I'm doing tutorials, what I will actually do is if there is something that I want you to see, I've downloaded, because normally what I'll do is I'll do this, and that way there's a totally uncluttered thing. That one opens up. Probably need that for some of the tutorials. So what I'll do is I'll download something and I'll say, right, this one I'm going to set it so it doesn't hide when I do that, and then it'll leave it on. So sometimes I take a few seconds between downloads and things to manipulate things just so that it looks a little less cluttered. That's all. We just had a resub. Clue 212121 and Bardicroon. Thank you for the sub. New cheer. Can we get a tutorial for Fallout 3, the GOG version one day? Maybe. Many of the... Oh, wait a minute. The GOG version... No, yeah, the GOG version's fine. It's the BethesdaNet version that's not fine. To be honest with you, I don't think there's much difference between the GOG and the Steam version of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas for modding. The only difference seems to be that those two games come 4 GB aware when on GOG. So you don't need the 4 GB patcher, but it's almost worth using the patcher anyway because it does some other things. And does Fallout 3 still require Windows Live? Not that I know of. I don't think so. I mean, I can run it on my machine via Steam, but the GOG version definitely doesn't. However, I have to say, I have to tell you, I would probably recommend the Tale of Two Wastelands instead. Just make the jump. I will like spill the beans. I am planning on making a tutorial for Tale of Two Wastelands. For those of you that don't know, it's essentially getting Fallout 3 to run on the Fallout New Vegas engine, which, comes with a host of improvements. More stable, better performance, built-in iron sights, a few other things, but also the modding community for New Vegas is very, very active. Very active indeed. So I will be getting around to getting a we got a hype train. We got a hype train. Salamagoosh. Thank you for the resub. Hi, Red Dragon. Chasing the Echoes. Did we make it? Did we make the next level of the hype train? I think we made the next level. Did we do it? This was a stroke of genius. Oh no, level 1 is complete. This was a stroke of genius for Twitch, because I've become a little obsessed with it as well. It is shiny thing moving syndrome, isn't it? Squeaky Rabbit. Thank you for the resub and the cheer. Oh, you didn't resub. You cheered. My bad. See, I'm getting distracted. What is a hype train? Basically, every time you do something like sub, gift a sub, cheer, anything like that, it goes towards the hype train. And if it reaches a certain level, after 5 minutes, anyone who was part of that hype train gets a new emote. A random one. But if you get it to level 2, so if people keep feeding the hype train the way they're doing now, I'm a sucker for hype stuff, said Zipper S. Yeah, that's what Twitch are relying on, I guess, isn't it? It is a stroke of genius. And easy to see why it appeals to Gopher. So shiny. It is shiny thing. And basically, it can go all the way up to level 5, and then everyone who was part of the hype train, everyone who did something in it, gets a level 5 emote or something. Yeah. Basically, it's like collectibles in a game, only for your emote collection. Nightcrawler, thank you for gifting a sub to Jay. What was I saying? I was saying something. Right, we were talking about my desktop. All right, we talked about my desktop. What did we talk about then? See, you've got me completely lost. I was talking about my desktop. Taylor 2 Wastelands, thank you. This is why you don't distract me, or maybe this is why you distract me. So yeah, I would recommend that. I would definitely recommend that. So, and as I said, I will be making a tutorial series for that. There were a few things I wanted to get out of the way with Vortex. There were a few things on my to-do list, and I've been hammering those out. I thought I was more or less done, but there's been a few new developments that require my attention in Vortex. I'm probably going to have to redo one of the earlier videos as well, so... but I'm close to finished on what I would consider the essential ones. There we... Whoa! Zervanir in the house, feeding the hype train. How many was that? How many was that? I didn't even see how many. That was how many it was. It went zip it. Whoa. Well, it was enough. It was enough to get to level 5. It was 50. Whoa. Zervanir giving everyone a lesson on how to get to level 5 hype train in one easy step. And yeah, the downside is we will be hearing that alert for the next couple of minutes. I probably do need to investigate that and make it so it comes and shows Zervanir has gifted 50 subs, and it's a big alert like that rather than 50 small alerts. Crystal Palace says, chat, find someone who treats you the same way Zervanir treats Gopher. So yeah. Why do I not like Lonesome Road? Oh, I've answered that one 1,000 times. Let's try to stick with some new subjects. Okay. I mean, I'm sure I'll answer it at some point in the future again. But let's. What was I doing? What was I talking about? I've gotten distracted by Zervanir. I was talking about something. I was talking about Tale of Two Wastelands. Had I finished about Tale of Two Wastelands? No, I moved on. Vortex. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure the Vortex the Vortex tutorials now, I've reached a point where I can start looking at other things. Apart from, as I said, there is at least one I've got to redo, because, you know, there are constant new things with Vortex. So there might be... I mean, I don't know whether I'll make it the beginner's guide. I may have ended the beginner's guide today, because I'm not totally sure there's much left that needs a huge amount of coverage, but there are a few things that could either be worthy of a showcase video, or maybe, depending on how you look at it, a part 10. So we'll just have to see. Because there's these things called extensions for Vortex, which means the functionality can be basically extended. Mods for your modding tool. And there's quite a few I'd like to cover. Am I going to cover Nemesis for Vortex? I might, but I mean, at the moment, no. Nemesis is really new. I'm going to play around with it, because I've not played around with it. I will play around with it, and I'll see what it needs, and then I might send some feedback towards the Vortex guys and tell them what is needed to make it really viable to manage. But right now, as far as I know, I will test it. As far as I know, Vortex does not have built-in support for it, and so it's going to have some issues. It is going to have some issues that, you know, I will, but I need to test it. Don't quote me on that. I need to test it. I need to test it. But yeah, I mean, once Vortex gets a tool for it, if a tool is required, I will definitely cover it. If it looks like it's going to be a popular tool, yes, definitely. There you go. Chat, keep questions for the appropriate sections. Right now we're on Vortex and tutorial stuff. Yeah. Because tired Gopher is confused Gopher. Believe it or not, the good news... No, we're doing this in sections. Now Wolfclaw's going to tell me off. Focus, Gopher. Focus, Gopher. So yeah, okay, so there you go, tutorial section. We've got the tutorials out of the way, right? We got but I don't want to move on to anything non-technical, seeing as I want to keep things grouped. You thought the sub-gifts had broken OBS. No. What I wanted to do was go here and hope I don't have too many. Right, yeah, that's probably a safe one. I've been working diligently on this ENB preset, and today I decided I would add some God rays, but I didn't want to go nuts. I didn't want to go crazy and have it, like, you know, look like something from there we go. Oh, that was probably spoilerific, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm testing out a mod called Better Spell Learning. I shouldn't worry too much about the spoilers. I shouldn't worry too much. So you know, Chapter 8's probably going to get better spell learning. This is more or less what my EMB's been looking like for forever, actually. I need to find a place I've got God rays. I've not tweaked much. I've just been really trying to fine-tune things. For example, the lens flare. I'll show you the lens flare in a little while, because I was noticing a problem in the college. Oh. What am I stuck on? What I want to do is find a place where I might be able to show some God rays. Because I've not got... I mean, I know you can actually make it with the God rays where it's just it looks literally like God has come down to speak to you, hence the name God rays. But what I really wanted to do with this was just have a slight effect. So I need to get somewhere where... I think it actually helps a little bit if I wait an hour. Ah, there we go. because this was sunrise. Can you see just at the top of the branches a slight God ray coming through the gap? That's what I've been messing around with today, and just making it look like reasonable. So it looks kind of cool, but it doesn't like overwhelm you. So that's what I added today. I worked on a few things. I've been working on adaptation as well, and failing absolutely utterly. I cannot get. That's one thing I wish I could fix. When you're using the ENB particle lights, which are brilliant, by the way, there's a certain point once you get past them, ENB turns them off. Because it's not on screen, ENB turns it off, and you do get that little... It's a shame. Star Trek lens flare or go home. I don't like lens flare. The ENB lens flare I have played with, but I think you need the ENB post processing on. So you got slightly more God rays there. So yeah, the adaptation, I just can't get it working very well at all, if at all. Permo Bonetto, thank you very much. Here's a coffee and an aspirin, dealing with construction and sleep issues. We'll talk about my construction and sleep issues in a second. Thanks, mate. I usually start by covering that, but we've gone like, we're doing a backwards timetable. So yeah, I will work on the adaptation more, because if I can get that working, that's going to be useful when I go into the dark areas, and some people are still having issues when we go into dark areas, and I'd like to fix it. I have been playing with the idea of using ENB's post-process and seeing if I can get that set up well and working with night vision. I did play around a little bit getting ENB and Predator Vision working together, and I think I've got the basics and how to make that happen. But I'm still, I'm not all that impressed. I don't like the ENB fix for night vision from a Let's Play perspective, because there's this weird moment when you go into night vision where it kind of flicks on and off, and it's a little brutal. It works, but it's a little brutal. So, backwards timetable. Yes, I've not played Fallout 76 yet already. Quadraco, very funny. So yeah, so like for example, this sort of a scene, it would be nice if when I came close to the fire here, things, you know, were as visible as they are now, but when I got into the black dark area here where visibility is almost gone, not quite gone, but almost gone, I can't tell if it is working. I don't think it is. I think it's supposed to kick in very, very... The lens effect on ENB is not just the lens flare. No, I know. There's a couple of them. You've got the sun glare and you've got lens flare. I've tried them both, but to be honest with you, I want to keep effects like that subtle. I want to keep the effects fairly subtle, because they always... I don't want the person to feel like they're looking at a camera shot exactly, but maybe hints of it. Because hints of it give it a sense of watching a movie. But if it's too overwhelming, I find it looks more like you know what, if you watch a movie, you generally don't have massive sunspots on the camera lens. You don't have like an overwhelming amount of indication that you're looking through a lens, because they try to get rid of that. But occasionally you'll have those moments where it will happen and it will actually add to it. That's sort of what I'm going for here. But like I was playing around quite a lot with the lens flare, because I'm using, let me see if I can get this up. Because I'm using original post-processing, that's what makes my night vision work without, see, the night vision works perfectly without requiring the fix. And you notice how it's that nice smooth ramp up and then ramp down. If I use the ENB fix to make night vision work, it's a little more like it sort of goes on, off, on, off, on. It's like that. It's a little stuttery. If I turn the post-processing off, what does it look like? A lot brighter now. Yeah, I haven't got it. I haven't got it set up with ENB post-processing. I am thinking of trying that, but because of that, I'm using the game's lens flare, not ENB lens flare. I don't know whether you can use ENB lens flare. I don't think you can actually use ENB lens flare unless you use. Oh no, yeah, no, right. The lens flare there is actually the ENB one. I don't need to enable that. Because it just isn't working with the current setup I've got, and it shouldn't either. Let's have a look. Lens flare game. This is the built-in game's lens flare. It's a bit brutal. I think I'm in during the day. So let's have a look at this. Oh, no. Do I need the lens flare on anyway? I do need lens flare. That's probably why I've got it on then. Oh, or is it night? No, it's the night. It is. It's nighttime. I thought I was in this place during the day, but apparently I was in during the night. Let's turn the lens flare off here and see what happens. Right, no. So the game lens flare does not require that option selected, you see. So what I was having during chapter 7 was I had my lens flare set like that. About that much. You can see there's a slight flare here, and it's kind of cool looking. It is kind of cool looking. Unfortunately, it had some bad effects in certain spots, certain very, very bright spots where I have added a lot of lights, either with the mods I'm using or things like ENB lights. Let me just reload that. I will show you an example of where it was absolutely the most egregious was there. The College of Winterhold. I've noticed a few problems with the college overhaul I'm using. It's got double windows on the tower. I don't know why. You may have noticed it a few times. Can you see it's got a double window above the tower? But anyway, during chapter 7, what we actually had, you may have noticed it a few times, was this sort of effect. Because it was set around there. Can you see how the lens flare is really obvious? And it's here, and it's here. And indeed, it's a Denuvo issue. All right, that could be a Denuvo issue. Can you see how much effect the lens flare has with those two windows either side? It's quite distracting. I noticed this in several places. It looks really quite horrible. The interesting thing is, if I switch the ENB off, it's still there. So it's actually the game, not the ENB. And it's probably because either Denuvo or the overhaul mod I'm using it's too much. So it might actually be my fault from the when I was setting up Denuvo. However, if I put the ENB back on, I get better control over the lens flare. So what I did was I dropped the lens flare down to, I can't even remember what I dropped it to. So SSE comes with lens flare. It does, but I here's the thing. I don't want to disable it completely. So that's why I've dropped it down, because I think the effect is slightly nice when it's subtle. I do prefer the ENB lens flare, but you need to enable post-processing for that. And again, that then means I need to sort out the night vision, and I would then need to totally redo the ENB. So this was the major fix I needed to get in. Set it so that the lens flare was less objectionable. Now, I only needed to set it in a few places, and it was usually outside at night, but I decided to drop it in all places, including interiors. Including the interiors. I was going to set them both the same, actually. And I don't need to enable lens. I'm just going to save that configuration so I remember to keep it. So there you go. There is lens flare here, believe it or not. You just might not be able to see it. So what I found was it actually helped fix a problem I had with fireplaces after using the ENB lights mod. Because one of the things I had got noticed was with the ENB, I was getting like this sort of effect. Now that I've just cranked the lens flare too high anyway, but you can see everything looks kind of weird. I was getting that with certain fireplaces when it was set to about 50% like this. This one's not so bad, but there were some, especially in Dragon's Reach, that were awful. Reducing this to about 25 has made it so there's less of a problem with those fires. So that's what I've been doing. I've been basically running around trying to find a balance on these settings so they look okay in all circumstances. Because it's easy for me when I'm doing videos to cut out bits that I think are so ugly or so problematic. If I don't say anything, you don't miss much. But obviously, if you're going to release an ENB, you can't have people doing that. People don't want to be seeing something that's horrible. So I've been making it a little bit more subtle. I'm still working on it because I'm pretty new to this. As I said, I haven't got the ENB adaptation working yet at all. But again, this could be because I'm not using the original post-processing. And as you can see, the post-processing with ENB, I've just not set correctly at the moment anyway. It's way too bright. So, and if you go outside, you'd see, if I do that when I'm out, well, I'll tell you what, for those of you who don't believe it's too bright, because you'll be going, oh, that's perfect inside, although it's too bright inside as well. I'll show you what it's like outside. You can see how not set up it currently is. Cold coffee. I probably won't be working on this much more. Right, let's turn the post-processing off. Oh, no, that makes it... what that does is it makes it go all kind of dull, and you need to tweak all the gamma, brightness, and contrast settings. So it's sort of like... Yeah. It's gross because I've not set it up. It's completely and utterly not set up to use post-processing. I've been focusing on using it with the normal game's post-processing. And the normal game's post-processing does everything I need, more or less. You've got... I mean, to give you an idea here, let me get rid of that, and also... I'm going to get rid of this. To give you an idea... Because I think some people sometimes look at mine and think, well, I don't really see the ENB very much. Because if I turn off the ENB now, see, it's off. The colours are not that different, right? The colours are not that different. The contrast, the brightness, everything's not too different. That's ENB off. But if you look at the grass, I'm going to put it back on. Can you see how the grass has got more shading? Deeper shadows. That's the ambient occlusion, actually. Oh, it's also detailed shadows. So, and you can see it on everything. You can actually see it on everything as you look further and further away. The ENB does add lots of areas that look more realistic from the point of view of the shadows. But also look at the death bell in front. I'm going to turn it off now. It gives off no light. This is one of the major reasons I ended up using an ENB. Because you can set the certain objects in game to give off light. And I think it's gorgeous. Just this subtle little... You can see the grass. And the reason is the difference between having a glow and having a light, which a lot of people get confused by. A glow in Skyrim is where a texture itself seems to give off light. You can see it. And that's why you can see things like Nirnroot in the middle of the night. You can see because they glow. They have a glow. But if you look at them very closely, you'll see things that are right next to the Nirnroot are totally in the dark. Because the Nirnroot, for all the fact that it is glowing, it is not giving off any light. So you cannot see the thing that's right next to it. With ENB lights, you can, because the Nirnroot itself gives off light. And that's what that's doing. The death bell at the moment is giving off a purple light, and you can see it on the grass. Without the ENB, that death bell is glowing, although you can't see it because of the daytime. But with ENB, it actually gives off purple light, which is really nice. And so that's what I've been going for. That's what I'm focusing on. Once I've got it to the point where I think I'm okay, I've got to check. There are certain places like High Hrothgar at sunset where I'm not happy. I think the settings I'm using at the moment make the sunset look way too yellow, and I don't understand why. But it might be the game that looks yellow there, so I need to test that out. But once I've done that, I promise I will think about uploading it, because a lot of people have asked me. But people need to understand something. It is not a light ENB. It is not a light ENB. I think because I'm not using the ENB post-processing, so I'm not using all of the settings, I'm not using wet surfaces and some other things, it is lighter than some. It is lighter than some. You know, if you use Rudy's is very heavy because it uses everything. So my preset's lighter than things like that. But it's not what I would consider a light one, because a lot of people release two. Rudy hasn't done this. Rudy's ENB is the full size, but very often you'll have something like Rudy's full and then Rudy's light. Shout out to the chat and good vibes. Thank you, Perno Benedetto. And usually the light version turns off all of the things that are performance heavy, and that's like detailed shadows, ambient occlusion, depth of field, particle lights, all those sort of things. And they leave on all the colour and bloom, the things that make it look all fantasy-like, you know, really, really sort of very saturated, bright blue skies with lots of haze on everything, so it looks dreamy. They leave that on because, believe it or not, that side of things is not particularly taxing. They turn off things like the shadows. I've done the total opposite. I've left Skyrim looking more or less like Skyrim. As you saw, it didn't change the overall look and feel too much. It still felt like the exact same place. It's just the shadows looked better. The ambient occlusion, which is shadows sort of, they all look better. The shading looked better. The god rays do look a little bit nice. The extra lights I find gorgeous. Things like the glowing soul gems, I find them gorgeous. All these little things, those are actually quite taxing. They push your system quite a lot. So it's not a light one. Just warning you guys. The other thing with the extra lights that ENB adds is they're not very large, so they don't interfere with the stealth aspect of the Leonard playthrough. That was the thing I was worried about. People were saying, oh, ENB adds new light sources. It can have, you know, unlimited number of light sources now, and it looks great. And I was like, yeah, but because I'm playing a stealth playthrough and I've modded it so light is very important, I need to know where the shadows are. And if you've got loads of lights up from ENB, they're technically fake lights. They're not actually there. They may be lighting things up for you to see, but you can't see if they are there for the NPCs to see. And I was worried about that. But in actual fact, the way it's done, it's very small, subtle little lights that probably don't affect the stealth aspect that much, but they do make the visuals pop. So, big fan of it. I've probably overdone it. I'm using quite a lot of ENB light type mods now. A lot of the Rudy ones, but I'm using ENB lights itself, and I've pretty much cranked all the settings. So Dragon Fire gives off light, spells give off light, everything gives off light. And you'll see it every now and again in my playthrough. I'll walk into a certain place, especially if there are lots of fire pits in that place, and my frame rate just goes right down. That's not my ENB preset, that's the fact that I've loaded my game with lots of mods that actually use the ENB particle lights. But overall it's worth it because it's gorgeous. So, right, what have we done now? We've done my modding videos. I'm working on my E&B. General status in the house. General status in the house. The noise has not been bad this week at all. Very, very minor noise. I'm on the weird... I can't tell you if I'm on night cycle or day cycle because I'm not on a cycle at the moment. I'm sort of sleeping for 3 hours, then I'm getting up and I'm working, and then I'm getting tired and I'm going to sleep for 3 hours, and it doesn't matter when it is. It's not a healthy cycle. But something broke recently, and I've had something like 12 hours sleep in the last 24 hours, which is very unusual for me. It's in 3 stints, both 4 hours each. Or both. All 3 of them, 4 hours each, but that's how I'm sleeping. So obviously I've probably pushed it and exhausted myself just a tiny bit, so I need to get back in a decent cycle. I'm hoping we've only got 3 more weeks of this left. I'm hoping. Epic Games is giving Civ 6 for free now. Is it? I've already got Civ 6, but you know what? I'm that guy. I'm gonna go and own it on Epic as well, just because I have got a lot of games on Epic I have no intention of ever playing, but they're giving away free games, and I'm like, all right, I'll take it. Let's have a look. It's not there yet. Oh, unlocking in 000. There's a mystery game. Do I have to click on it? It's not telling me what the mystery game is. It's not telling me what the mystery game is. Probably need to reboot. GTA 5. I got GTA 5 on the freebie, which was interesting. Oh, there we go. Civilization 6 free now. Click here to see this week's game. No, it's not letting me do it. It's not letting me do it. There's something I've got to reboot, I think. Ooh. The magic words. It's free. But yeah. I got GTA 5. It was there. It was there for free on the Epic Store. No, I get that. Because I've heard that's good. So I now have like all of those freebie games on Epic, plus Doom, Star Wars, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, The Evil Within. What else do I have? Borderlands 3. South Park The Fractured Whole, Civ 6, and yeah, a few others installed, ready to go. Doom wasn't free, no, but I mean, I've got that installed. I'm talking about the games I've got ready to play now, so... Oh my god. So yeah, Epic Store still giving away free games. My Epic Store library now is actually pretty damn healthy, and I've not got them all. I forget to check in on them, but I've checked in often enough that I've got. Let's have a look at my library. I'm not going to show you because I can't be bothered switching over and risking ending the stream as I did last time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11... 67 games currently. 67 games currently. I bought 2 of them. There's a cool looking game on there called Control. I heard good things about that. It's on sale. Don't have time to play it. Do not have time to play it, so don't. Yeah, Control is quite good. Yeah, I'd actually heard that. So anyway, there's the home situation in, with a bit of a mix of, look, free games. It's still going on, but it's quieter than it was. I think it's over in about 3 weeks, I hope. And I'm ready for it to be over. Yes, I am. Can't argue with free. Will never buy anything from EGS. Okay. I chuckle. I chuckle because I heard the same thing. I heard the same thing all the time about Steam back in the day. Well, not about free games, but oh God, I remember the day when Steam came out. There was a lot of people like, I will never buy games from Steam. So no, maybe you're right. Maybe you never will. But if one day I'm playing a game that's on Epic only and I see a God of Cheese stalking me, I'm gonna know you're buckled. I'm gonna know you're buckled. Oh dear. Oh, there is a piece of news, isn't there, at the moment? There's a bit of There's a bit of a controversy about Doom itself. Doom has now got Denuvo. Apparently, it might have had Denuvo at the start, but it didn't, or something. But now it's got Denuvo. Not the DRM. It's got anti-cheat Denuvo, I think. Have they taken it out already? They've taken it out already. Okay. Out of curiosity, am I the only one who was a little bit like, DRM, I get. Stop sticking DRM in things. It just doesn't work. Stop it. Stop spending money making the product subpar when you don't get anything out of it. I'm sorry, you don't. DRM gets hacked. It gets cracked eventually. So anyone who wants to play the game and isn't going to buy it is probably going to do that anyway. They'll just wait a few months until it's cracked and play it. And I know maybe there's the odd person out there, the odd person who would rather pirate the game, but if they can't play it day one, will buy it. Maybe. But I don't think it's that many people like that. I think most people who are determined to pirate a game are also willing to wait. Because if you're willing to go to these weird sites and risk all sorts of things infecting your computer, and then spend a few hours downloading these files from various different places and hoping no one's put anything in them, and then using the cracking and then getting it working and then going through whatever other hoops you have to do to get it working. It's been a while since I've been to those sites, so I apologize if it's now like a den of cleanliness and user friendliness that makes AAA companies hang their heads in shame. But that was that's. Not that I ever went to those places, but that was what I heard from friends. If you're the sort of person who's going to do that, you're not the sort of person who's going to go day one purchasing. Because you'll be in that den of iniquity and you'll find something else to play. So, yeah, you might get a few extra sales with the DRM, but you spend a huge amount of money on adding the DRM, and then you make a worse experience for the paying customer Ubisoft. For the paying customer Ubisoft. For the paying customer who was stupid enough to pre-order Assassin's Creed 2 Ubisoft. You punish me. And you could argue I deserve the punishment for giving you money in a pre-order. Right? But that was a pre-order I pre-ordered so I could start downloading the game the instant it came out. I didn't get any special bonuses for it either. It was just I knew I was going to play the game and I wanted the game, so I pre-ordered it and started downloading before it came out, I think. And you made my experience worse with the DRM, Ubisoft. That's the problem I've got with DRM. It doesn't really bring anything useful, in my opinion, and it certainly doesn't bring anything useful for the customer. There is, as a paying customer, I get nothing out of DRM. Nothing. If you want to argue the company makes 1% more profit, I'll say, okay, maybe. But I honestly don't believe it. I believe DRM can drive customers away as well. I don't think you need DRM to be successful. So stop wasting money and time and effort and goodwill of your customers on DRM. So I'm totally against DRM because it doesn't bring anything to me. And I'm buying the product. It's a product I'm buying, and this is not adding to my experience, it's taking it away. I just can't get quite as angry about anti-cheat software. I'm not saying all anti-cheat software is good. I'm not saying it's always done well. But anti-cheat software does give something to the player. It's in fact, if anything, it's there to help the player in a way. I mean, it's there to help the company as well, because if players can't play your game because it's full of cheats, and they won't play it because it's full of cheats, the company won't do well either. But the anti-cheat software is there for you know, you. So I get a little, I'm a little like, you know, I realize sometimes these anti-cheat things can be a bit invasive, but I sometimes feel like a lot of the people complaining and just it's kind of like they're complaining about something that really, I'm like, okay. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Most anti-cheat software is invasive crap that doesn't even stop cheats. But that's the thing. Gomzo, here's the question. How many times, a rough figure, between 1 and 100, how many times has anti-cheat software done something invasive to you that was problematic? Because for me, it's never. I've never had my identity stolen by it. I'm not saying it can't happen. But every single piece of software you install could do something awful. Anti-cheat software tends to be more dangerous because of its nature. So it can do something bad. Yeah, it can. I find it like, I mean, that's the thing. If this anti-cheat software comes out and all of a sudden people are reporting that their entire systems are getting wiped, yay, that's when we go, how dare you? Or you install the anti-cheat software and it steals your entire life or something, right? Yeah, I get it. And we got to keep our eyes on that. We definitely got to keep our eyes on that. And if the news article came out saying they've added the Denuvo anti-cheat software and there's a real exploit there that will allow hackers to do X, Y, and Z, this is bad, then I would join in with the outrage, but not at the fact that they had anti-cheat software, but the fact that they'd failed to make good anti-cheat software that was safe and secure. You get what I'm saying? So that's, I think sometimes with this everyone's review bombing doom, maybe I'm being unfair to them. I might be being unfair to them, but I got the feeling that 99 out of 100 people complaining about this had not been negatively affected by this, and probably never would be. But it was like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I might be misjudging them. It just sometimes feels that way because, like, It's kind of a you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't scenario, I feel, for them. Like, if they release the game and it's got no anti-cheat and everyone's cheating, then it's like, oh my God, Bethesda! Oh my God! Fix this! Cheating's out of hand! It's like that. It's like, yeah. So, and have you ever noticed when it's good, it's like, id Software, id Software have done it again. As soon as it's bad, oh my God, Bethesda. You ever notice that? Because I did. Denuvo anti-cheat is a risk, doesn't matter how big of a risk. It does matter. It very much matters because every single piece of software you install is a risk. Every single piece of software you install is a risk. So how much of a risk is important? In fact, it's the critically important question. And if it turns out that the Denuvo anti-cheat software is massively a risk, if there are some security loopholes there that could be used by hackers or could cause problems for your system, that is important and we should shout at that. But how much of a risk is the critically important question. And And you also said it affects FPS. And that's true, and it might. And again, the question is how much? Because here's the thing. I used to play Counter-Strike. And cheaters were a nightmare. And having things like, VAC anti-cheat and stuff like that was important. So even if it dropped a few frames, I don't know if it did actually, but if it did, right, it was important because the cheaters would ruin the game way more than a couple of frames a second dropping would. So again, these are the questions that are important. How much of a frame rate penalty is it? So that's... Somebody wrote, I bet if it didn't have Denuvo in its name, no one would have cared about this. Less people would have cared about it. And that's the feeling I get. Because, as I said, everything's a trade-off. The reason I hate DRM is there's no trade-off. It's just bad. For me. For me. If you want to argue it's good for a company, I'll entertain that argument, even though I'm not convinced by it. But you just can't convince me it's good for my gaming experience, because it's never good for the gaming experience. At best case scenario, it has no effect on my game. Worst case scenario, it completely ruins it for me, Ubisoft. Yes, I'm never going to forget that. But with anti-cheat, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. It might hit your frame rate. There might be slightly more risk to anti-cheat software than, say, Doom itself. In fact, there almost certainly will be. By the very nature of anti-cheat software, it's going to be, it's going to have more power and more control of your system than, say, Doom does. It's kind of like your virus checker. Your virus checker has that level of control. And so, in of itself, the virus checker is a trade-off. It could have a problem. If they have an update on your virus checker and they do something wrong, it could theoretically have a massive problem for you, right? And it will drop your performance on certain things. But it's the trade-off, isn't it? It's the trade-off. And for me, that's the same with anti-cheat. Now, again, I don't know too much about what the problems were with this anti-cheat, but that was what set the warning off for me. Nobody was complaining about what was going on. They were complaining about what they thought might go on. So here's the thing. So they've removed it already. Question. Is there cheating going on in Doom at the moment? I mean, there's the big question. Does it have any cheating at the moment? Do they have a problem? Oh yeah, no, I realise that if you've not bought the game for the multiplayer and you only play it for the single player, you don't need the anti-cheat. But it is also a multiplayer game. It is also a multiplayer game. Now, would it be better if the anti-cheat was an option that only got installed if you wanted to play multiplayer? Maybe. I know quite a few games did that. Like, you could play the single player without the anti-cheat, and then they had an option for the multiplayer. But maybe it's less secure if you do that. Maybe in the past some, cheaters have found ways around that in games that have had the option to do it and thus managed to play multiplayer without the anti-cheat software installed or something like that. Maybe baking it into the game itself is actually the safer way to stop cheaters. And it's I think the other thing here is, again, it's about the focus and the reason as to why. When they add Denuvo DRM, that's the company saying, we want more of your money. Ha 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 ha. Right? We all hate them for that. When they add anti-cheat software, I get it. Maybe you're not happy with them. Maybe you didn't like that anti-cheat software. But ask yourself a question. Why have they added the anti-cheat software? Why? Because they don't want cheats ruining their game. This is it, from a goal perspective, it's at least more laudable than DRM. But the feeling I got from the reaction when I was reading all the comments, it was as if they jammed the DRM straight back in. Like, I feel like there was just a knee-jerk reaction to this. And again, I might be misjudging people, but I feel like there was it was added because Bethesda wants something that will help them protect their interests, specifically the cash shop microtransactions. So it is DRM. Tannhauser's saying it wasn't just anti-cheat, it was DRM. It protects their microtransactions? Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm gonna want some citations on that because I don't think so. You know, the implication is that in future games they might be adding microtransactions to single player games. Yeah, again, I'm not totally sure what that's got to do with this. Adding microtransactions to single player games is bad. Absolutely, 100% totally agree. Not totally sure what that's got to do with the anti-cheat. The anti-cheat is there to stop people griefing you and cheating against you, right? If you're not playing the multiplayer, you don't need that. But at least the company themselves, they've added it for at least a good reason, is what I'm getting at. So, you know, there is good cause to want to add anti-cheat software to games that are multiplayer. Having played a lot of multiplayer games, I can tell you it really can be a massive problem. It can. It's often not as big a problem as people think. A lot of people scream cheat at the drop of a hat. And I would say 90% of all claims of cheating, maybe even 95% of all claims of cheating are just sour grapes. It could even be more than that. It could be 99%. But there's enough cheating going on out there that I will tell you that it's a problem. And it can destroy games. It can destroy the multiplayer games. So in this particular case, I have to say, from what I've heard, I'm looking at this as a bit of a... I'm not getting it, I guess. I'm not. Would it have been nice if it was optional? Maybe. Do I really? I mean, I'm not going to uninstall it myself. I've not heard anything that's made me think, oh my God, I better get Doom off my system right now. Everything's going to go... I've not heard anything like that. If I hear anything like that, then I will pull the game off my system straight away and be unhappy with them. But, so... You've heard they're bringing Creation Club Atom Store to Doom Eternal. Yeah, microtransactions. They're bringing microtransactions to Doom Eternal. I wouldn't be shocked and horrified, but that's a different subject. And I think that's the thing. I think what we should do, again, maybe I'm misjudging people who got outraged over the anti-cheat thing, but I suspect I'm only misjudging a few people. I suspect a lot of the people I'm judging very correctly. They're outraging on automatic now. And I think what we need to do is target our outrage. So when they added DRM, yes, terrible. When they added anti-cheat, like, When they then tried to shoehorn microtransactions, terrible. Because if we're always terrible no matter what, then terrible is meaningless. That just becomes the sound effect that happens when you add something. You know. Free money and supermodels for everyone. Terrible. Wait, what? You know what I mean? It becomes like there's just this. The developers themselves are not going to listen to the outrage. You know what worried me? A lawyer reading their terms of service and saying, I'm not sure I want to install their stuff on my PC. Nails, you would probably get most lawyers to read most TOS or EULAs of most games and go, you know what? This sounds like not good. Those EULAs and TOSs, as they will now be known, normally are... I mean, some of them are so bad they may not even be legally binding. So... No, not microtransactions, a hybrid of the Creation Club and the Atom Store. So a hybrid of microtransactions and microtransactions. And that's not microtransactions. How is a hybrid of microtransactions and microtransactions not microtransactions? I didn't spend too much time studying biology at school. Enough. I passed. I got my biology O level, but I'm pretty sure a human hybrid would be human. But yeah, the smallest of microtransactions. Baby microtransactions that grow up into full-blown microtransactions. They have different names and evoke different but similar reactions in their Bethesda audience. They have different names and they do evoke different reactions. I've not quite figured out why. I suspect that has everything to do with PR, marketing, and expectations. But they can call them different things as much as they like. They're microtransactions. So I don't know what they're going to be in Starfield. If they decide to have microtransactions in Starfield, it could be the Galaxy Shop, right? But I'm going to be calling it microtransactions if it's there. If they've got one in Starfield, it's going to be microtransactions. If they've got one in Elder Scrolls 6, it's going to be microtransactions. If it comes to Doom, it's going to be microtransactions. I'm not calling it the Splatter Shop. I'm not calling it, the Gore Market. It's getting called microtransactions. So yeah. But they've removed it anyway. Is that good? I'm not going to play multiplayer Doom. But now I've got this slight little tiny urge to go play it and see if it gets loads of cheats now. But yeah. It's the Gore Store. Ooh, no, I like that. No, if they call it the Gore Store, I might call it the Gore Store instead of microtransactions. And I might throw money at it because that's a cool name. Yeah, and I'm shallow. And I'm lying. Not about being shallow, but about throwing money at them. Dear, oh dear. Bethesda steps as of recent seem like other major company. Yeah, see, again, we're back to calling it Bethesda instead of id, aren't we? Because it's a bad thing. I want Bethesda Softworks and Bethesda Game Studios to get different names. I want Bethesda Softworks to change its name to ZeniMax Publishing House or something. I bloody well want it to do it. I mean, we could get Bethesda Game Studios to change its name to... Because I'm still seeing this. I'm still seeing people like, oh my God, such and such a thing is coming to Doom. What the hell, Todd Howard? I'm like, Todd Howard has nothing to do with it. It's like... I want to call it like just ZeniMax so that we can rage at Bethesda for Fallout 76 and we can rage at ZeniMax for microtransactions. So we can rage at the correct people. Isn't ZeniMax already a publisher? No. ZeniMax is the holding company that owns them all. They're also a developer. ZeniMax Online Media is the developer of Elder Scrolls Online, and they're owned by ZeniMax. Bethesda Softworks is a publisher that is owned by ZeniMax and publishes games for Bethesda, id, yada 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 yada, blah 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 blah, all of them. It does all of that. So it's not that complicated a structure. What's complicated is the fact that they've got two companies called Bethesda. One is the publishing company that publishes for a lot of different developers, and one is a development studio that makes the Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls games. Oh, and Starfield, assuming we're still going to get that, right? And the confusion is utterly rampant all of the time. And it's not like both Bethesdas aren't due their fair share of criticism. It's just for different reasons. It's the criticism about Fallout 76 and a somewhat buggy game that doesn't get fixed and can't have key rebinds in 2020. And then there's the Bethesda that keeps trying to take money from your pocket. Now, sometimes they're linked. In Fallout 76's case, the bugs are because of Bethesda, the developer, and the monetization is because of Bethesda, the publisher. Probably. But in Doom, if we get microtransactions, that's because of the publisher developer, not the developer Bethesda. I.e., has nothing to do with Todd Howard. But still everything to do with Pete Hines. You with me? God, they just need to change the name. They need to change the name of Bethesda Softworks to ZeniMax Publishing House or something. Just change the bloody name. Once upon a time, it actually made sense. Now it doesn't. And I think once upon a time, they wanted to keep the Bethesda Softworks name because it had lots of good PR. And they wanted to separate the development team, and they made them Bethesda Game Studios. But they wanted to keep the positive vibe that Bethesda had. But now that they don't have a positive vibe, they really should split those two companies up. They're related, but they should split them up just to make it easier to remember who the hell to aim the rage at now. Dear, oh dear. See my video, Bethesda, what was it called? Is it Bethesda Game Studios did not make Elder Scrolls Online. Because it does cause people to be confused, and I understand why. There are people out there who honestly still to this day believe that Elder Scrolls Online existence is why we don't have the Elder Scrolls 6 yet, because the people who were supposed to be working on Elder Scrolls 6 made Elder Scrolls Online when they didn't. There are people who believe that the Elder Scrolls 6 has been delayed because the Elder Scrolls Online is making too much money and they're worried it will reduce it, even though those games are just not even remotely alike and have a completely different fan base and player base. There are people who believe Todd Howard is directly involved in Elder Scrolls Online. It's like... So, like, for example, every time the Bethesda Softworks YouTube channel posted an Elder Scrolls Online trailer, there would be people going, we don't care about this. All we care about is Elder Scrolls 6. And then underneath we go, I care about it. I play Elder Scrolls Online. You know, not me, but like loads of comments. Fallout 76 is the reason we don't have Starfield. I'm not totally sure that's true, but it is more likely. Because I know they've got another... for Fallout 76, they basically created a whole new team. But it undoubtedly caused the Starfield team, or the people who were going to work on Starfield, to probably spend some time on Fallout 76 as well. It wasn't just completely the Austin team. The Maryland team almost certainly had to spend some time on it. So, yeah, Fallout 76 probably did delay Starfield a little. A little. Not as much as we think. What if Zed and C are in Starfield? Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up. I've gone on 10 minutes too long. I don't know if I had anything else to talk about. Probably did. Too late now. I'm going to go take a quick break, and we're probably going to be back for a little bit of Fallout 76. So we can rant about Fallout 76 whilst playing Fallout 76, you see. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for yet another random rambly rant about all sorts of random things. I'll be back next week. If you want to hang around and join us for Fallout 76, you're more than welcome. I'm probably going to stop and start the stream just because I'm going to switch profiles. But in the meantime, I'm going to see if I can get the credits working. Yes! Yeah, right, excellent, done. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes, guys.